Okay, let's dive right into this cinematic explainer where we unpack the absolutely high-octane lore of DEATH-KRYO. If you've seen the Slake Biopunk trailer for this one, you know we're looking at a not-so-distant futuristic world that has completely abandoned the surface. It's a universe of monsters, mechas, and frantic underwater survival. Today, we're going to break down the incredible world-building behind this highly anticipated cinematic release hitting theaters this summer. Humanity is literally hanging by a thread here, and the lengths they go to for survival are honestly both fascinating and completely terrifying.
So how do you survive a surface world entirely overrun by apocalyptic monsters? Imagine the sheer adrenaline rush of asking yourself that terrifying question as you're desperately fleeing the Carc-Zilla plague. That's the bedrock premise of this whole universe. The surface didn't just get a little polluted, it became a literal hunting ground. These Carc-Zilla, this horrific breed of monsters, completely took over the Earth. Humanity's only play was a chaotic do-or-die evacuation away from the sun, moving underground and straight down into the crushing depths of the ocean. They had to build entirely new civilizations in the pitch-black abyss just to escape the nightmare up top.
So, as events unfold, this desperate retreat actually evolves into these massive, neon-lit underwater metropolises like New Atlantis and Sub-Korea. But of course, the peace doesn't last. Our tech genius protagonist, a guy named Lucky, actually manages to develop a cure for the initial plague through his company, Cerberus Inc. He gets insanely rich off this, right? But instead of saving the day, the breakthrough just causes more chaos. The United Nations forcefully buys him out, and this sudden cure triggers a massive power vacuum. Almost overnight, these surviving deep-sea cities are plunged headfirst into a vicious bioweapon arms race.
Which brings us to Section 1, Blood and Soul Currency, the ultimate battery. Because down in the deep black, survival isn't bought with traditional cash. It's fueled by something much, much more visceral. Here's the crucial twist. Through brilliant, albeit incredibly dark inventions like Lucky's soul pen, raw human emotion and life force are literally weaponized. In this world, blood and souls are traded like currency. It's wild. The soul pen was originally designed to help cure the plague, but it gets repurposed to harvest the emotional energy of the underwater citizens. This raw soul energy becomes the ultimate battery. We're talking about a power source capable of running massive technological structures and generating devastating elemental magic. It takes the standard cyberpunk trope and pushes it so hard into biopunk territory, your very essence is now the most valuable and dangerous resource on the planet.
And it's fascinating how these tools actually apply that life force. While Lucky relies on his soul pen, the Korean factions went a different route, developing these tarot cards. Basically, they're intricately designed card decks totally infused with human emotions, stuff like intense passion or pure anger. When a skilled user, like the fighters in the new Korean resistance, uses these tarot cards, they can literally manipulate elemental forces. They're conjuring walls of flame, summoning gale force winds, throwing up defensive shields. It's this beautiful, brutal blend of cold sci-fi tech and urban fantasy magic, all driven by that same dark soul economy.
Okay, moving right along to Section 2, Factions of the Abyss, the Deep Ocean Struggle. In these bioluminescent depths, competing organizations are locked in this incredibly brutal geopolitical battle for total control of the ocean. We've got a really stark contrast here. On one side, you have the highly aggressive United Nations, led by the tyrannical Sayors. They're operating from a sprawling surface command center up in Geneva, and they are out for total, ruthless dominion over the oceans, using framing, assassination, you name it. Countering them is the Korean alliance. They operate out of these stunning, futuristic cities like Sub-Korea, and they are deeply pragmatic and technologically advanced. They use stuff like sub-robots for surveillance and security, and they're more than willing to forge tough alliances to keep the UN's expansionist grip out of their waters.
And caught right in the middle of this crossfire are the clone merpeople. These are peaceful, bioluminescent mutant clones with this profound connection to the ocean. Now, the UN views them as a complete threat to humanity and is secretly plotting a terrifying genocidal agenda to wipe them out completely. But the Korean factions step in. They recognize the clone merpeople's right to exist and form a protective alliance with them, which, as you can guess, completely sets the stage for a massive geopolitical collision.
That brings us straight into Section 3, the bioweapon arms race, extreme measures. Because when sheer survival is on the line, absolutely nobody holds back. This political powder keg rapidly escalates into an all-out apocalyptic arms race.
Forget standard artillery. They're trying everything. These factions start trading in extreme measures.
deploying devices that literally manipulate oceanic currents to create massive destructive whirlpools that can swallow whole naval fleets. We're talking stealthy sub-robot armies trying to hijack underwater cities, and experimental, highly mutagenic gas bombs. The ocean basically transforms into a terrifying testing ground for the most catastrophic biotechnological weapons humanity can dream up.
So, how do you fight back against that kind of outbreak? Well, our tech genius Lucky decides to build a colossal Pacific Rim-style robot mech. As the biological horrors get bigger and way more monstrous, conventional weapons they don't cut it anymore. Lucky and his elite operative group, Spy K, need something that can go toe-to-toe with literal leviathans. This mecha army is basically humanity throwing its absolute best engineering at an impossible biological nightmare.
And their latest idea to combat this? The UN decides to fight fire with fire. Their answer is unleashing Carc-Zilla. It's essentially a weaponized Shark-Zilla, this twisted, terrifying shark submarine hybrid designed to just completely rule the waters. The UN took those original apocalyptic Carc-Zilla monsters and genetically perverted them with machinery. It's half submarine, half shark, and entirely lethal. It is the UN's absolute trump card to establish total dominance over the underwater world.
Which naturally leads us to Section 4, the ultimate monster brawl, the clash in the deep black. This constantly escalating arsenal is all building toward a legendary surf and turf brawl right down in the pitch-black abyssal plains.
And Say from the UN doesn't just send one of these beasts. Oh no. She summons a mind-boggling army of over 1 million Carc-Zillas to swarm the deep black. When this final confrontation kicks off, she unleashes what looks like an endless, swarming tide of these twisted, zombie-like hybrid creatures. They literally stretch out as far as the eye can see, forming a terrifying wall of teeth and metal aimed directly at the clone merpeople and the new Korean forces.
It is absolute cinematic chaos. Just picture this battlefield. You've got Lucky's massive mechs throwing down against literally millions of Carc-Zillas. Meanwhile, the new Korean resistance fighters like Ji-hyun and Soo-jin are furiously dealing their tarot cards to summon massive whirlpools and tidal waves, channeling their raw soul energy to just rip the enemy apart. Add in a mysterious pirate assassin named Dorchester slicing through armor with an energy-bladed dagger, and you have the ultimate high-octane biopunk battlefield.
Yeah, wild as it is, this epic showdown doesn't end in total destruction. It ends in an uneasy, politically forced truce. See, a desperate plan to erupt an underwater volcano and wipe out the swarm actually fails, but just as all hope seems completely lost, breaking news flashes across their screens. A massive political stalemate forces the UN, the USA, and New Korea to sign an immediate treaty purely because other global superpowers like China are threatening to intervene. So the war just stops. The Carc-Zillas halt, the elemental magic fades, and everyone is forced to back down in this incredibly tense, anticlimactic stalemate.
So, with the world hanging by a thread and rumors swirling about Lucky moving on to secret space ventures, we're left wondering, whose side are you going to be on when the next bioweapon strikes? Because believe me, the story doesn't end in the ocean. Right as this fragile truce settles, Lucky gets a tip about some black market asteroid mining out in the void, and watching all of this from the shadows, his evil twin brother, the Architect, manipulating events from a dark holographic lair. The battle for the ocean might be on pause, but the war is literally expanding into the void of space.
We're left with Lucky's chilling promise. Not this time, Sayorsi. This time, you're going to stay down for good. It perfectly hypes us up for this ultimate biopunk showdown hitting theaters this summer. It's a lore absolutely packed with political intrigue, breathtaking tech, and a wildly unique magic system powered by the human soul itself. So, what do you think? Are you ready to dive into the deep black, or will the Carc-Zillas keep you safely on dry land? That's all for today's explainer. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.